Hey everybody, it's Cody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you guys are here. Today we have another tier list. But before we hop into it, I want to say that 90% of you guys that are watching are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out. All right, let's hop into the tier list, shall we?
Disclaimer: Cody is not proficient in fishing with soft plastics, nor is he a professional angler by any means. This tier list was made for fun, so take things he says with a grain of salt. Now enjoy the ramblings of an idiot.
The soft plastic tier list. Now, what I've done here is I've tried to condense down the absolute massive soft plastic lure types there are into what I believe are the most common and most used soft plastics out there. Now, if your favorite soft plastic is not in this tier list, just leave it down in the comments and tell me what you think that your favorite soft plastic ranks among the others. So yeah, there's not a whole lot. This one's not as expansive as the previous two tier lists that we did, but it is what it is, all right? So there is a ton of different types of soft plastics out there, and this is what I've condensed it down to. This is just what I think the most common types are that everybody has in their tackle box. So yeah, now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. So the first soft plastic we have on the list here is a lizard. A lot of people love lizards. A lot of people use these lizards religiously. Me, I have never caught a single fish off of a lizard. And that's not for lack of trying. I try lizards a lot, but I just do not have luck with lizards. And, you know, it's just the fact that I really don't know how to fish them. I mean, I throw them out and I rig them up in a Texas rig kind of style, and I will fish them kind of like I do a Senko style bait. I lift and let it fall, lift and let it fall. I've just never had any luck off of a lizard, but that doesn't mean it's a bad lure. None of these lures on this list are necessarily bad. It's just how I rank them personally. This is my personal tier list, and if you guys have any differing opinions, leave them in the comments. But please make sure to keep it civil. No yelling at each other, no yelling at me. This is all just a fun little tier list that we're doing here. So yeah, lizards, a lot of people love them. Me, not so much. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of lizards. I've never caught a single fish off of one. And because of that fact, I think I'm just gonna retire from the lizard fishing and just kind of throw them out of my bass bag. I might give them to somebody else, but for me, lizards are a D tier. Again, doesn't mean they're a bad lure. It means that I don't personally like them. Okay, we have the worm bait. Now, a lot of people associate worm baits and stick baits as being the same thing, but I think they're different enough that I put them in separate categories. The worm themselves, you have a absolute metric ton of different variations of the worm. You have like 3-inch worms to 12-inch worms. You have worms with straight tails, worms with curly tails, worms with hook tails and vibe tails, and it's just like you have the different. It's just it is mind-blowing how many different types of worm lures there are. And let me tell you something, they all work very well. Worms are really like one of the first introductions into soft plastics, and it's very hard to fish one of these guys wrong. You rig it up Texas style, usually with on a worm hook and with a bullet weight. You just cast it out and you just fish it any way you seem fit, and usually a hungry fish will grab onto that sucker. They're very hard to fish wrong, and they work in a ton of different scenarios. And for that reason, but the reason I'm going to put them in B tier, and the reason I put them in B tier and not A or S is because I don't fish them a lot. They're a great lure, but it's just not something that I personally gravitate to when it comes to soft plastics. But they're great, and they have caught me fish. It's just, I personally prefer fishing other soft plastics on this list, and we'll get into that here in a second. Tube baits. Let me tell you something about tube baits. I hate tube baits. Now, I say all of these lures are good in their own right, except one, and that's the tube bait. I can't stand the tube bait. I know there's like 1,000,002 different ways to fish the tube bait, but when it comes down to it, I just cannot stand a tube bait, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I've tried to use them in the past, and it just seems like every time I put on a tube bait, something bad happens. It's like a bad luck charm or something. Every time I try to rig up a tube bait, I either get hooked by my own hook, or I lose my lure and my hook, and it's just like my rod snaps in half, or my reel explodes. Something bad happens every time I put on a tube bait. And you know what? It's going in D tier, and I'm gonna move the lizard up to C tier because nothing is as bad as a tube bait. And you can argue, you could put in the comments that you think tube baits are S tier. Good for you. You're wrong. All right, you're wrong. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding. All right. Moving on to a grub bait, and these grub baits are really like, everybody has seen these things at least once in their life. Even if you're not a fisherman, you've seen a grub bait, because they come in those kits of, like, you know, starter fishing kits. These grub baits are everywhere, and you know what? They work surprisingly well. The little grub baits, the bigger grub baits. There's some grub baits that are like that big and like this big around. Looks like something your mom has in her drawer. Anyways, the grub bait is a really great bait, and you know, I've caught a lot of bass on them, especially at a lake down in Myrtle Beach that I fished at before. They just love these grub baits, and they love the curly tail, little 3-inch lime green with the black flake in it. Love them. And you know what else loves them? Carp. I've caught a carp on a grub bait. I'm talking a very big carp, and I caught it on a grub bait. It's just like, that blew my mind. So because of that, because I've caught a lot of fish, and they're so common, they're easy to fish. You cast it out, you reel it in. Your 95-year-old grandma can do this. The grub bait is A tier. Seriously, it's a great bait. A lot of people overlook the grub bait too, but I think it's really good. All right, soft plastic toads or solid body toads. I think they're good. I really do. They're a good bait. A lot of people love using them. But here's my thinking with the toad. If I'm going to fish a toad, or if I'm in a scenario that the toad comes up, that I want to kind of fish the toad, you know, I usually pull up the toad, and then I pull out my hollow body frog. And I like fishing the hollow body frog better than fishing the solid body toad. And it's not, I'm not saying that the solid body toad is bad, but it's just, why would you use this toad when you could use the frog? And the frog, to me, is a funner lure to use. So I believe I put the frog in A tier or S tier on my hard body, or on my hard bait lure list. So I'm gonna have to put this guy in B tier. Great lure, it catches fish, but I would much rather fish a frog. All right, now we're getting into the baits that I really, really enjoy throwing. And one is the soft plastic jerk bait, or the fluke style bait, whatever you want to call it. A fantastic lure to use. You can use this lure in a ton of different ways. You could rig them up in a ton of different ways, fish them in a ton of different fashions, and they work. They just work. They catch fish. And you know, the fish that I've caught off of flukes or these jerk baits, they have been tanks. They've been very good quality fish. Whereas, you know, like the grub or the worm, I catch smaller fish. The flukes, I catch the bigger monsters that I'm after. Flukes, fantastic lures. I love fishing them, and they're fantastic. So S tier for the fluke. Okay, creature baits. Now, creature baits are very good, but my experiences fishing with creature baits, I usually use them as a trailer or a body for a jig. I don't necessarily fish these creature baits by themselves alone or on some kind of creature bait rig. They're mainly used as trailers for me personally. So I'll throw them on a spinner bait, on a chatterbait. I'll throw them on a lot of different styles of lures to use them as a trailer, and they work fantastic. But like I said, they're never really something that I look at and I design or make a rig specifically around the creature bait. So I'm gonna put the creature bait in. You know what? I'm just gonna put them in C tier because they are literally just trailers for me. The swim bait. Now the swim bait is my all-time favorite soft plastic to use. There are so many different styles and types of swim baits. There's so many different ways to rig a swim bait, to fish a swim bait. It is fantastic, and I have caught some of the biggest and best fish in my entire life on a simple 3 to 5 inch paddle tail swim bait. Seriously, the swim baits are goated. They are the best soft plastics ever, and for that reason they're going in S tier. Last but certainly not least, we have the stick style worm bait. Now the stick is a fantastic, legendary lure. Everybody's caught fish off of them. Everybody has them in the tackle box. Everybody uses them. Everybody loves them. They're just fantastic. In fact, I've caught my personal best largemouth on a stick style lure from Conspiracy Fishing. Go link in the description to conspiracyfishing.net where you can pick up so many amazing lures, best lures on the market hands down. But I caught my personal best largemouth on their flat earthworm, which is a stick style lure, worm bait. It's just fantastic lure. You can rig them up in a lot of different ways, and they're super simple to fish. You can go a simple wacky rig, just hooking it through the middle and throwing it out, weightless wacky rig, or you can go like a Texas rig or a Carolina rig or a drop shot or this or that or the other. There's just, you can make this, you can fish this as simple as you want to or as complicated as you want to, and each different style is effective in its own right. It's fantastic, and it's legendary, and it's great, and I put it in S tier because why wouldn't you put the stick style worm bait in S tier? You'd have to be like brain dead to not put it in S tier. So this is my tier list for just a very, very small little portion of the soft plastic lures out on the market. Like I said, if your favorite is not on this list, leave it in the comments and tell me why you like fishing said lure. Now, I don't have a ton of experience fishing soft plastics, I will say that. I probably should have said that in the beginning, but I don't have a ton of experience fishing with soft plastics. I mainly like to stick with hard lures, hard baits, things of that nature. It's just that suits my fishing style better. And that's why this soft plastic tier list was not very expansive, and I didn't really have a lot to say about each one of the lures that we featured here on this list, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. If you would, hit the like button, the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, share, all that good stuff. It really helps push these videos out in the algorithm and helps reach a wider audience, and hopefully we can grow this channel into something awesome. And let me know what you guys want to see for the next tier list. I've got a few ideas, but I really want to hear from you guys what you guys want to see. So, all right, that's it. As always, I'm Cody, and thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Be safe out there. God bless.